Saturday. It's raining. There's nothing going on. It's Saturday afternoon. The hangovers have been taken care of, but the Bay City Rollers haven't started rolling their bays yet, and so this is the perfect time for a podcast. What else are you gonna do? Take a nap? I mean,
No.
I would actually be taking a nap right now.
Spend time with your loved ones? No.
No, it's time for video game podcasts about video games.
Video games.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jeff.
I am Bryce.
It's a weird week, Bryce. I say that pretty much every week.
Why so?
Well, we've got a state of play. We've got a second state of play after last week's state of play, and then we've got some weird rumor news. But other than that, I was really digging to fill up this browser full of tabs this week. I was like, there's not a lot of news this week, so I don't know. Just like last week, maybe I'll cast my evil hex and be like, I think this might be a shorter podcast. Doodly 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 doo. But
The thing is, I don't know if the viewers get this. Every time I'm on this podcast, that's the story, Jeff. Nah. You know what? This week I cut it down.
Yep.
This week I cut it down. It's not going to be. Then there's no. You can't control the weather, Jeff. You're one man.
It's like Groundhog Day. It's always the exact same podcast. It always comes with the same caveats at the beginning and always runs for 1 billion years. So, well, I guess we better get started. Bryce, right this afternoon before we started, I watched a really stupid movie that I wanted to talk about briefly.
Please tell me about this stupid movie.
I watched The Beekeeper with Jason Statham. He's a beekeeper who kicks a lot of butt. He's keeping bees. He's shooting guys.
Yeah. That's the plot, folks. He's not cutting out a lot of stuff. He's Jason Statham, but he's a beekeeper.
Yep.
And he's getting fucking revenge.
It's like the best description of this movie is I feel like we have a new paradigm for this particular meme. It used to be generic, and now it's like, no, honey, we have John Wick at home, and this is John Wick at home is the beekeeper.
You know what? Jason Statham's a good John Wick at home. Okay.
Yes. This movie I didn't realize this was directed by David Ayer, or else I probably wouldn't have watched it because I kind of hate that guy between Suicide Squad and what was that other really stupid Bright. I've not been a fan. Yeah.
What a resume.
But basically, I mean, this is just as simple as it gets. Jason Statham is a mild-mannered beekeeper minding his own business, hanging out with Felicia Rashad for some reason, and then she gets scammed by some online scamsters. So it's not like kill your dog. It's like my grandma got scammed, and then I'm gonna go and grab a bunch of guns and start killing my way through. It's really focused on this dark tech corporation that's scamming old people out of their life savings and crypto and NFTs. And Josh Hutcherson from the Hunger Games is this bad crypto bro that turns out to be the guy that Theon Greyjoy played in John Wick. It was a very weird movie. And it almost worked to just be a gratuitous action movie where Jason Statham is punching guys, taking guns away, hitting people in the neck. Except that the concept of the Beekeepers is these paramilitary organization of these special guys, but they take the philosophy of bees really seriously. It's yes, they're the beekeepers. When the hive is threatened, they're the ones who come to put the order back. We have to smoke the wasps out of this organization. And the queen the queen is in danger, and I'm just you guys didn't need to have them be these philosophical bee men. They could have just been called the Beekeepers as some kind of
do they make mention of the fact that by all known aerodynamic laws, bees should not be able to fly?
No, they get caught. It's
This is ridiculous. I did not realize that movie was full of bee shit. I just thought it was, we took Jason Statham and we gave him a beekeeper old lady as a John Bailiwick, and But it's even deeper. It's a B movie. It's a John Wick B movie.
It's a literal B movie, not the B movie, just a B movie. No, it's really stupid. You guys don't pay for this. Don't spend money on it. Go wait for it to be like you want to be hungover on a rainy Saturday afternoon, and you want to open up HBO Max and go, hey, that stupid movie that Jeff said one time. Maybe I'll watch it, and then you'll get 40 minutes in and go like, man, Jason Statham is super into bees. You guys, this is weird.
Amazing.
So yeah, it was not good. It was I made my stand last week with Wonka. I recommend everybody go watch Wonka. The Beekeeper is bad. Wonka
You're
good.
recommending a Wonka over a Beekeeper.
I liked the Wonka. I liked it quite a bit.
Wow.
Yep.
Are you a Timothy Chalamet fan?
No, I'm not. Like I only ever saw him in Dune, and he was being very like stoic and stuff. And here he's being very whimsical and like upbeat, and he's singing songs, and he's throwing candy to children. And I was like, Paul Atreides? No, okay, seems all right. How about you? Okay. Have you seen anything good recently? Played anything good? Been reading anything good? Listened to anything good?
Ooh. You know, I had an interesting experience the other day. So I got this steering wheel controller, I guess about a month back now. Mm-hmm. And it's great. I like it. I really dig it. I've been figuring out my apartment and rearranging it and hooking things up and trying to hook it up to the PC. And that got me to go back to Forza Horizon 5. Mm-hmm. Because I always felt like, oh man, I feel like I gave that game short shrift. Like I know I paid for it full price because I didn't want to get Game Pass, and I know I spent some time with it, but I just fell off it. I'll go back to it. And first off, I did not figure out the correct settings to use the steering wheel in that game. It was like driving on butter. No, that's not like oh man, butter is such like a bad word. It was just slippery. It was a super slippery, controlled really weirdly. So I got away from that. But I was like, okay, well, I installed it. It's like 1 million gigabytes. So at least I'll play it and maybe I'll finish it. Mm-hmm. And I realized that the reason that I fell off of that game is because you have to want to do every type of thing in that game mm-hmm. in equal proportion. Right. I personally want to do like road races and like track races, but those games have a lot of off-road races and cross-country races and storms and dirt and I don't want to do all that stuff. And so my experience going back to that game was, oh yeah, I did the 40% of this game I want to do. Mm-hmm. And I've got this map full of a bunch of little piddly things like, you know, the speed traps and drift zones that I don't want to do.
Did you win the battle royale, the Forza Horizon battle royale mode? I remember when we played that for RageSelect.
I played that a few times a few years ago, and that was that was an idea. Yeah, but that didn't really interest me. So I don't know. I guess I've switched from thinking, oh, Horizon 5 is a good game, just never finished, to no, it's a game that I finished but was fine.
So I mean, it sounds from what you're saying though, it sounds like you would be more into the motorsport release that came out last year, since that's just like pure driving mm-hmm. as opposed to this like open world festival, the crew nonsense.
Yeah, I mean we played that. We did a couple of videos on that. Mm-hmm. And I would give it a shot. You know, I think there are things in that I like, but there's so many things in Horizon that I guess just coming back to it after probably over a year. Mm-hmm. I hadn't realized my taste had changed so much. I don't want the open world. I don't want a million little doodads to do, and like I kind of just want to do some racing.
Are you doing that thing where you get a new you spent money on like a steering wheel and now you're like looking at all of the driving you're just like what other games should I buy? Dirt? Should I buy Grid?
No, hold on. I already had a good bevy of racing games to choose from. And so like kind of yes, but also kind of I already had the games. Right? I had Gran Turismo and Grid Legends I already had for a minute. I had Dirt.
What about Snow Runner? What about
the mud tires games?
Yeah, yeah. What about like Euro Truck Simulator or like American Truck Simulator or
Euro Truck or American Truck is the next one I want to get hooked up and working because Jeff, the two things I love about video games are gambling mechanics and tedium. Oh my god, I love American Truck Simulator. Do you know that game? What was it? I talk about this all the time. Rebel Galaxy. I
mean, I know Rebel Galaxy, but
no, wait, that's not it. It's Rebel. It's a game where you're a space trucker, and but there's like pirates and ships and fighting and stuff. Rebel Galaxy. That's
yeah.
And I never left the first like hub world that you're in because I just liked doing trades. I just like doing the little fetch quests and selling stuff. So, yeah, that's up my alley.
Okay, fair enough. Well, let's talk about something that may or may not. I actually don't know. Do you RPG any of the J's? Do you look at any of those J style RPGs, or do you play some roles that are Japanese?
No, not really. But I would also say the thing you're about to talk about is not a JRPG.
Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, you mean? Yeah, because we had a state of play that was showing this game off. So I don't know. I'm not entirely sure how much there is to say about this because it like.
Did you like Remake?
No. I found the weird like fetishization of Final Fantasy VII to be weird. And I think that part of it might be the fact that sometimes this can come off as like insulting to people, and I really don't want it. I'm just like, this is something that I have to, whenever I have an opinion that differs from the mainstream, like I didn't like Final Fantasy VII Remake, I always have to interrogate like deeply what didn't I like, because I feel like people are like, but why didn't you like it? And I want to have a good explanation. And I think that part of it may be that I just do not have the same nostalgia for Final Fantasy VII as people that were born between 8 and 10 years after me, because
people in my age,
right? Because when I was a kid, around the time when I think a lot of people that have nostalgia for this, when they were playing this at that age, I was playing Final Fantasy III on the Super Nintendo, and so I have a huge amount of nostalgia for Final Fantasy 3, 6, whatever. But I played Final Fantasy VII when I was a surly teenager, and I was like, I mean, that was pretty cool, I guess, whatever. They took down the corporation, but I didn't have the same connection. And I think it's possible that a lot of the people that have such a big connection to this have a big connection to it because it was unlike anything anybody had ever seen before, and it probably hit at a very good time age-wise for people when you would be really wowed by just like, wow, look at this, look at these characters, look at this world. I don't know, I could be wrong, because when I look at the actual story of Final Fantasy VII, I just don't think it's anything that much more special than a handful of other Final Fantasies. I don't think that the characters are especially that much more memorable than a boatload of other RPGs, J and otherwise, to speak of. So I guess a lot of times I just don't understand this, like, holy shit, this is the best game that's ever been made, and we're going to remake it, and we're going to stretch it out into 3 parts that take 5 years between each one of them. It's gorgeous. Like, I look at I played the demo of it for a Patreon video. It's absolutely flawless. The graphics are amazing. Like, the sound and the score and the presentation stuff are great. It's just, it just doesn't really do anything for me as a franchise. Or I guess it doesn't deserve this level of hoopla, in my opinion. Anyway, that's me.
I will say, I think you do have something there, in that, like, this is the latest wave of nostalgia. I played Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I have a lot of like critical things to say about that game. But I played it with a smile on my face like the whole time, primarily because, like, oh, I recognize that song. Oh, like, I am seeing a new angle on this place. Oh, this thing that I thought I had a really strong understanding of because I played it a lot as a kid. Now I see another side of it, having also like revisited some of these games in older stages of life. And so what I think is with remake, and probably here with Rebirth and the rest of this remake trilogy, I think they've called it, is partly a nostalgia play. And I think that they're making adaptations to the story to like probably do some sort of slightly meta play, acknowledging like, it's the whole metaverse. Remember we were doing fucking metaverses or multiverses,
Right?
Yeah. But that's a way to tell the story a little bit differently, but probably basically the same, right? And I think that's the best you can hope for. I think for as far as like their value at the time, I think you go back and look at RPG games of that era before and after, and I think there is something about the marquee titles, the marquee franchises, that set them apart in terms of scope of story, in terms of like atmosphere, music. I don't know. I've been on a big Final Fantasy VIII kick recently because I just found out someone has made like a full album of lo-fi remakes of the soundtrack. and so now I've just been ruminating on Final Fantasy VIII again and thinking like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, you can like laugh and joke and say like, oh yeah, it's another JRPG where you fight God, but like that was a very massive game for being really unorthodox and following Final Fantasy VII, which is really orthodox. I mean, despite the cinematics and all. There's a lot of proficiency. I like it's tough to say just because there's always been a time where media kind of gets chucked out. Like it's the Shrek thing. It's the Shrek thing, Jeff.
What Shrek? I'm sorry. What is the Shrek thing?
Shrek is like nostalgic. Shrek is the next level of nostalgia.
Okay.
Like if Final Fantasy VII is like my wave of nostalgia, Shrek is like just past me of, kids who grew up and there's like a million Shrek movies and all their parents watch them. So they watch Shrek a million times. And now like Shrek is this like mimetic thing. People joke about Shrek and they put little Shrek Snapchat filters and stuff. We're talking about the fucking ogre movie, but that is nostalgia. Like that is what the shape of nostalgia is, and I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting, and I don't think you could do what they're doing with this Final Fantasy VII treatment with another franchise or another game. I don't know what game would warrant it.
Maybe. I mean, I think I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, okay, so let's talk a little bit about the actual state of play here, because they are showing, like, it seems like after the first one that was very centered in Midgar, you're finally getting out into the world, so there's more of like an open world stuff. It's possible that might actually be one of the things that would help me to like this more, because one of the I don't want to keep going back to this, but like one of the mechanics that I wasn't a big fan of in 7 was the fact that there wasn't a place for you to grind and get more powerful. Like, it was a very like locked in, like it was it like you didn't go back and
Final
forth.
Fantasy 7?
The remake, the remake.
Oh, remake, yes.
Because you were just kind of going through places. And so if you hit a challenge, you didn't really have the option to go like grind to get more powerful and then come back to it. You just kind of had to deal with it at the level you were at and change your tactics. And I felt that was really like, that funneled me into these situations where I'm just like, I don't want to just I want to do what I want to do. I don't want to do what you tell me to do. I want to be able to have the ability to RP my G, you know? So it's possible that this might make a difference, because with the ability to go, it looks like it's much more open. There's different places to go. That you could do that. You could go get more powerful and then come back and try a challenge that you weren't able to do before by just brute forcing your way through 6 levels over where you were supposed to be. It also I think helps the fact that like their open world appears to be massive and lush with a lot of stuff going on. There's like the golden saucer with all the games, and there's like vehicles, and looks like there's a bunch of chocobos with like specific powers. They show like a chocobo that has like a water jet, or one that can glide to get to different places.
Jeff, did you play 7? Did you finish 7?
I got about halfway through, and something happened in the combat where I was just like, "Go fuck yourself," and I stopped and uninstalled it. So
the original.
The original. Yes, 100%. It was actually really funny, because when the remake was coming out, we did a podcast where I just kind of like was like, "Yeah, Final Fantasy 7. This happens, then this happens, and this happens, and this happens, and this happens." Somebody was like, "Jeff, spoilers," and I'm like, "Well, the game." But by the same token, this is the first time that a lot of people are playing this story. So I don't know, somewhat sensitive, but also, Midgar has this real like, industrial pipes and weird city blocks from the 90s thing going on. And so it's nice to see like trees and sky and like beach towns and cowboy towns and like different places that are outside, as opposed to just being very kind of locked into this little pathway that you go. I always thought Final Fantasy VII Remake had a lot in common with Final Fantasy 13, in that like you're kind of just heading for there's a few places where you can deviate a little bit to one side or the other, but for the most part you are on a track to the end of that game, or at least what I played of it.
But I mean, there are open worldy elements in play here, but I mean, if this is like the rest of Final Fantasy VII, then it's still dungeon based. It's still like gonna be a straight ahead story, I assume.
Well, I mean, maybe.
So it may just because my feeling with remake was, okay, a lot of what they added here was filler, and I just like I'm seeing Chocobo mini games, and I'm I mean maybe this stuff will be good, but I worry about fluff, because I think the stuff that they put in remake that is new and very low effort feels it, and that makes the whole thing feel worse, where I would have rather not done X, Y, or Z new piece of content than just get to just doing the bit that
the plot points. Yeah. Like you didn't want them to again, this is going back to criticism about the whole concept, the idea of taking what was like a 40-hour RPG when it originally came out and making 3 40-hour RPGs out of it, instead of just remaking that one thing into maybe an 80-hour RPG. But
Especially out of segments that are like not that long. Like the Midgar segment is iconic, and it makes sense that you could put a full game out of it. But I think it's also pretty telling that like what looks like the rest of disc one, and then by at that point you could just do the whole rest of the game because you've built out the whole world now. Like I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, it also looks like, from what I can see in this trailer, you know, people forget that when Final Fantasy VII Remake first came out, you were basically you had 4 party members, right? You had Cloud, Barrett, and Yuffie, and then Aerith, and then they had the expansion, or Tifa and Aerith, and then they had an expansion that added Yuffie, and I think Red came in there. And here we're seeing Vincent and Sid, whether you'll get to actually have them in your party or not. I mean, I assume you'll get to have Vincent in your party. I don't know if they're going to. If Sid is going to be someone that actually joins up until later, but again, it just seems like there's more freedom here. Like that's actually what it's kind of the same thing that you're talking about, but it appeals to me a little bit more just because I don't like it when I feel like a game is ramrodding me into like a specific place. Like I like to, even if it's an illusion where, you know, you're going to go to this one place eventually to make the story go forward, but I want to feel like I chose to do that, not that there was only one place to go, that there was like one hallway to go down to go.
I had this like very like specific emotional memory of playing Final Fantasy VII as a kid, which is kind of at the moment where we are with Remake now, where you just got out of the city and you're heading to Nibelheim and you are doing this big like backstory exposition dump with everybody. And when I was playing that game, I probably was 11 or 12. So that's as much patience. That gives you a sense of how much patience I had for reading this video game. I just beat this big exciting thing, and I'm out in the middle of the world, and there's a town. Let's go. And then you're stuck for like what feels like years in them doing this backstory, and wow, what a crazy story. And then what happened? And then you were in this and then the okay, yeah. And then because you're, you know, a kid, like, maybe you didn't like save the game, or maybe you've like played the game a lot and you played like the beginning of the game a lot, and then you like grow to like really resent that portion of the story because it was like really long and really unskippable. Like really interesting, like intersections of nostalgia with like a property this big.
I guess, you know, did we say, did you beat the remake? I didn't. But
I did.
You did? Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I like this is also part of a larger issue where Square and me used to be BFFs, and I'm just not picking up what they're putting down anymore, you know, between Final Fantasy XIV's time investment, 7 remake stuff. You know, I just got done crapping all over Foam Stars, which just seems like a horrible thing. I don't know. It's very possible that I just, you know, I switched over to Team Atlas, and now I'm a Persona guy, and like, we're just going to go our separate ways. But
sure.
I do also was this in the first one where you could kind of do different like traversal mechanics and puzzle solving with the different characters? Like this guy's got a jump, and this one's got a gun, and this one's got a grappling hook type of thing.
I think there was a little bit of that at the end. Like for some reason you were split up, and a very little bit of it, but not like what I'm seeing here on the clip. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. The other thing is there's a difference in director. Like the main director for the first one was Tetsuya Nomura, and then the I think the guy that was the sub director on the first one is like the main director on this one. So I'm kind of, I don't know. See, the problem just keeps coming in that like this game is coming out, but I didn't finish the last one. Like I didn't. So do I have to go back and finish that, or do I just wait?
I mean, I don't know. I don't think that's a question for them to answer.
Yeah.
I mean, you can I don't know. I mean, it's like I think that game is good, but I do think it is pretty disrespectful with my time. And so maybe you go watch a recap or something, and I'm sure you know what, and fucking it's Square Enix, you know that they're gonna have an encyclopedia thing you can click through at the beginning and watch a whole ass recap of this 5-hour segment. You can just go watch someone play the original Final Fantasy VII mid-hour segment faster, and basically get the same.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure how much like card games and different like level up systems. It does seem like there's a lot more here than there was in the last one. I guess that's what I'll kind of say finally. And there's actually a full demo out. They put a demo out on the PS5 that we checked out. It's very strange. It's a at least the part that we played. I think they're supposed to add a second part before the game comes out, which is in like 2 weeks. But the first part was like Cloud kind of recalling this mission he did with Sephiroth, and so you play as both Cloud and Sephiroth, which is very strange. But yeah, I don't know.
I think I'm just really skeptical of the idea that this second game will be open world, only because I look at the way we make games now, and I'm imagining this will be something that has open world levels. We'll have I don't know, but then what does overworld mean? I guess I just question, like, what does open world mean?
Well, I mean,
linear RPG.
From what they're saying,
and
I mean,
what the value of it is.
It sounds like open area, basically. Like you're going to have a bunch of very wide open areas with stuff to do that are kind of like
between dungeons.
Well, or did you play Final Fantasy 16? That would you consider that to be open world? Because it was like, big areas and then they routed into the next area, but like there wasn't like one contiguous open world. It was like one big sector that you could then move to another sector in. So it wasn't completely contiguous, but the effect was, semi-open world-ish. That's kind of the impression that I get of what's going to be going on here with the description that they had in the thing. Big areas connected to each other that you could fast travel between, type of thing.
Well, I guess that's more than just the concept of like being an open world game. Is I worry about their implementation of this, given what Remake looked like and what the ultimate nature of these RPGs is, which is going from dungeon to dungeon. I think that, like, in this case, big open world means we're gonna have big wilderness spaces, because this is basically the road trip part of the story where we go and do a moment at every locale. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for chaff. That's like I don't know why I'm like so fearful of this game having wasted time, but I know it will. Like I am so I am not joking that I have fucking acid to speak about Final Fantasy VII Remake, but I will play Rebirth. I know it because I am a piggy. Because it's my time. Like everyone who was in the pixel art revolution was that's my time now. Low polyvoxels is my thing. Like, okay, fine, I'll.
So is the most exciting part of this trailer then the weird Golden Saucer arcade game where you get to play the prettied up chunky sprite version of the old characters, but with ray tracing and stuff turned on?
That'll be great. Oh my gosh. If they've got the rock paper scissors thing, the cheating rock paper scissors.
But I guess we'll find out at the end of the month. I mean, I'll definitely check it out. Let's see. I think we got a little time. We got our new kind of format, but before we get in there, I think that we might be able to get through this in about 10 minutes because something big is going on in the Xbox universe. Who knows? Maybe this is going to take longer than I think, but there was a rumor that went around last week that said that Indiana Jones and the Great Circle and Starfield both might be coming to PS5. This was a relatively credible rumor. This has been added into the rumor that was like 2 or 3 weeks ago that Hi-Fi Rush might be coming to the Switch. And so these seem to be relatively solid rumors because all this came out. There was a lot of chaff. We'll get to that in a minute. But then Phil Spencer basically said that next week there's going to be, quote, a business update event where more information will be given with this particular about this particular situation. So, I mean, it seems like Xbox is looking at what Sony is doing by putting stuff on the PC. Well, Xbox already has, everything that comes to the Xbox also is on the PC for the most part. So they've already got parity there, but they are missing the third big, 4K AAA gaming device in the fact that a lot of the stuff that they're putting out is locked into those two platforms and is not on the PlayStation 5. And I think there's a concept here that says, well, we can make a lot of money if we take these games that we're spending a shitload of money developing, and then we after a period of time, port them over to the PS5 and let PS5 people play them. This did not. Well, first off, let's start there before we go into anything else. What do you think about that, Bryce? I have no console. I don't deal in the console war stuff. Like I don't care. The more places people can play video games, the better. I think that everything should be on every platform if it'll support it. Put Spider-Man 2 day and date on the PC. I get why they wouldn't, but like from an ethical / business standpoint, I think that it makes just as much sense to put this stuff out on all platforms simultaneously as it does to lock them into exclusivity deals. I think it's healthier for the entire industry, and I don't think that I mean, I could be wrong, but the impression that I get is that like those game exclusives don't push hardware sales as much as people think they do. That especially with this particular generation of consoles having so much parity with third-party games, that like some people will gravitate more towards PS5 because it's got exclusives that they want to play, and some people will gravitate more towards Xbox because Game Pass lets them play a bunch of games without having to buy every single one of them. But I don't think that there's any big issue with porting stuff to the other platform. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have I don't have an issue. It is an interesting move, right? Only because I don't know. Would we really say that Xbox has like arrived on PC? Because I don't know. My memory's not that short. Like Microsoft has like pledged itself to PC gaming many, many times. And I don't know. I still feel like the PC experience is lacking. I mean, it makes sense for their big games to want to recoup their investment. I mean, that's kind of just like the up and down of it. Especially something big like Starfield that, has been in development forever, could be a franchise, right? You don't want to have your next Skyrim be locked to one family of consoles, right? I mean, imagine how many remakes you cannot make if you do that.
Yeah.
And then like Hi-Fi Rush, like yeah, you had a little hit that you kind of didn't expect. Throw it on the Switch. I'm sure that shit will run, right? Who cares, right? This is very like C-suite level language I'm using, surely.
Yeah.
But I get it. They are it is Microsoft under there, right? They make PlayStation games, right? They've got Minecraft. Fucking Deathloop came out a few years ago. If you want to split hairs,
and they've pledged to keep most of the Blizzard stuff on there as well, at least for the near term. Call of Duty and
Activision,
Overwatch, and all that stuff. So The thing, so I think that the thing that I didn't factor in here that I think maybe I didn't know about, since I stay away from those spaces, is I was reading this Kotaku article that talked about how Xbox apparently has gotten a lot more involved with the like Microsoft the organization, Xbox the organization have been much more encouraging towards like Xbox fan content creators. Like you'll get people, like you'll get Phil Spencer following a guy that does an Xbox podcast, or you'll get like somebody retweeting like a content creator that's just like, hey, Team Xbox, we're here today for Xbox. Like, and from this article, although I can't be 100% on this, it sounds like they did a lot of this to try to like get back a lot of the fandom that they lost during the Xbox One debacle, during the launch of that, where you had a lot of people that were going over to PlayStation, and that they really amped up the amount of like direct connection between like their executives and basically the Xbox specific fans. And so then when this rumor came out, it meant that those Xbox super fans were incredibly pissed off, because they're like, no, the Xbox needs exclusives if it's going to survive, and like how could you make me buying an Xbox mean nothing by putting Starfield on the PlayStation? How, the only way for this console to win the console generation is through exclusives. It's weird to me, because since all the Xbox games come out on PC anyway, it's like it doesn't feel exclusive, right? I can only play Final Fantasy 16 right now on a PlayStation 5, but I can play Starfield on 2 of the devices in my room instead of just one. So it never felt like,
you know what it is? It's not a like the subtext here is not like, oh, it's losing exclusivity. It's like, oh, there's becoming less and less reason to like exist as a separate like identity.
Mm-hmm.
If Xbox games are just on everything, well, why are we making Xboxes? Someone would surely shout. Why don't we just why is it an Asus and Acer and Lenovo just make their own consoles with fucking GeForces in them and run Windows and have it like if that's
well, the answer to that, the store, the whole ecosystem, like all the money that's been set into like Xbox Live.
But if we're talking at the point of like, oh, maybe Starfield could go to PlayStation, like that is a pretty, like, it doesn't affect me none, but it is a pretty abrupt about face.
Mm-hmm.
It is a signaling, yo, the way that game companies, game platform businesses work, we are going to do something 90 degrees different to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if they're not playing the exclusive game, which is what you do when you are selling hardware, then maybe they look more like a Sega.
Mm-hmm. Just like a publisher, like just
focus on software, and then the next Xbox is an Xbox PC. Oh, the Xbox Series P,
mm-hmm.
Series PC, fucking whatever. And it's like a merging of those platforms, like, is not crazy to me. A merging of Xbox and PC, I can totally see them try to do that. Just as they tried to like make a Windows for ARM. They do have a Windows for ARM.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they'll try it because they're Microsoft and they're behind and they need to try something new. So
yep.
At least, like, it would be fascinating to see. It would be fascinating to see if I get any Game Pass benefits on my PlayStation. That'd be fucking cool.
Yeah, do you remember, what was it like on the PS3? Portal 2 on the PS3 had some kind of console Steam integration to it. It was like the only game ever. Like, there was one game that did that.
And then for like the decade after that, the Steam login had to have, like, if you're logging in from a PlayStation 3,
right.
This button.
I mean, I thought about it, and I think that I think that Microsoft will probably stay in the console. Would not get rid of their consoles just because the fees that they get on the store, like, you know, if you buy the Prince of Persia on the Xbox store, Microsoft gets a big cut of that. So, like, I think that there's probably, if you looked at their books, they probably make a shitload of money just on what they get off of people buying stuff when they have an Xbox, to the point where but the other thing is that I have to keep reminding myself, Microsoft as a company is like way bigger than Sony or Nintendo. Like, they're a $3 trillion company because of all the OS stuff and all the other stuff that Microsoft does that is not Xbox. So
Sure.
I think that this is probably going to end up being, you're probably just going to end up going to a scenario where after a certain amount of timed exclusivity, games are going to be released on the PlayStation that were previously Xbox exclusive. I think it just makes financial sense at this point, and I don't think that Microsoft really cares. I don't think that the hit that they're going to take on Twitter for doing this is going to be bigger than what they're going to make off of letting PlayStation 5 owners buy Halo on their PlayStation. Like,
it would be fascinating to know what the cost of porting those, say, Xbox exclusive titles over to PlayStation software would be, but then also what the cost of extending online services over there. What, at some point, you have to bridge Xbox Live and the PlayStation Network. It has to be Microsoft doing that at some point, if that's what we're describing.
Yeah.
And so, what does that look like? And it's just going to be fascinating to see. I think it will be really interesting to see. And because Microsoft, like you mentioned, is ungodly titanic, they can do it and just try. And let's see. We'll see.
Yep. Yes, we will. We'll see next week. But for now, we're going to go ahead and take a break. And yeah, when we come back, we've got even more news. So see you in a second. And if you thought that we were done talking about Microsoft, well, you're mostly right. But we got one more Microsoft story. Well, because
this is a video gaming podcast.
Because the merger finally went through, so there's less to talk about. But I thought this was a really interesting story. The FTC has filed a complaint against Microsoft specifically about the big layoff that they did last week with 1,900 employees that were removed, because the FTC is still in appeals process about the merger, and they have one more appeal left. And the thinking here was that if that appeal was to go in the FTC's direction and basically nullify the sale, Microsoft would then be forced to basically disconnect from Activision Blizzard and leave both companies the way they were before the merger happened. Whereas if you lay off a bunch of people, then it's not possible for you to basically reset back to where you were before, because you've made all these personnel changes while you still have an appeal that is waiting to be evaluated. So which I think is kind of interesting. Now, Activision's response to that, which I think is also really interesting, is that Microsoft said that, like, both Activision and Microsoft had plans in place to do layoffs, to do downsizing, that were going to happen regardless of whether the sale went through or not, and they just waited until the sale was completed in order to execute them, so that this doesn't represent something. It represents something that was going to happen anyway, and so it shouldn't be taken into account when it comes to the FTC thing. I don't think that the FTC appeal is going to... I mean, I think it would be amazing if we suddenly found out that, like, oops, no, you can't do your $69 billion purchase, and you've got to, like, now disconnect these two companies and go back to where they were before the merger.
Well, I mean, that would be... It's just academic. I mean, I am pretty pessimistic about this going anywhere other than forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, like even before you had mentioned the thing of like, oh well, both companies are probably going to do layoffs at either. I still was already like, this is probably gonna could still go in Microsoft's favor.
Yeah, yeah. Additionally, Microsoft also said that since they basically like the deal has already changed, like since the FTC was doing their suit, they already agreed with the CMA to offload their streaming in the UK to Ubisoft, so that like this deal had already been altered. Like it wasn't as cut and dry of a thing. It had already been changed a bunch of ways before it even went through. So that there's not really a way to backtrack. But I don't know. It would be weird if we saw anything go backwards in that direction. Last week, okay, so I'm reading a little bit into this because I like Devolver Digital so much, but we did have a Devolver Digital let go of some people last week, specifically in a studio called Artificer that made a game called God, what were they? It was called like, it's one of the less well-known Devolver Digital. No, it's not that. It's, let's see, Artificer game. Nope. It's called. It's like a combat game. Yeah, Showgunners. There you go. Yeah, Showgunners. A game that it's like a turn-based kind of action strategy, Running Man-esque type of thing. So yeah, they lost about half their team, which was 25 people. But then also the CEO of Devolver stepped down, and I'm not sure. I'd like to think that I think I saw this phrased in a specific way where like the CEO stepped down in order to basically sacrifice a lot of their pay to offset potentially even more cuts, but I don't know if I'm getting that just from reading a headline or if this was like, all I know is that this is the first time I've seen a story where people at a sub company were let go, and then somebody in upper management also stepped down at the same time, which is something I feel like I haven't seen in a lot of these layoffs, is that there's been a lot of people that have been let go from a lot of tech companies, and yet a lot of the executives who made these decisions still stay in power. They don't take any kind of pay cut or anything like that. It's also, though, possible because this is Douglas Marin, who's the current CEO, is stepping down, and the former CEO, Harry Miller, who is one of the founding people for Devolver, is basically is coming back to be the CEO again. So it's also just possible that this under Douglas Marin that Devolver hasn't been making as much, or they haven't been doing as well as they were before, and that they're just doing this as a confidence thing to be like, let's bring back the guy that did a better job. You know, we had a higher profit margin when this guy was CEO, so let's get the old guy back in and see what happens.
I mean, unless there's like, I don't know, sometimes with this stuff, when there's smoke, there's fire, and it doesn't even seem like there's smoke on this one. So,
yeah.
Neat. It will be interesting to see. It has been interesting to see Devolver Digital expand over the past few years, and what a change at the top in the short term. I don't know.
Yep, we'll have to see. Let's see. In other kind of business news, Square Enix put out a big plan to basically they're kind of reorganizing
Make good games.
Well, kind of. Like Square Enix over the last few years has definitely had a lot of problems with like not knowing
bad
how
games.
to
Putting
like
out bad games.
manage
Actively putting out bad games.
other companies. One of the biggest things here seems to be that they're going to be cutting down on outsourcing a lot and like bringing all of their development back internal, like for the most part, because apparently one of the reasons that Final Fantasy 16 got delayed a bunch of times was because they had problems getting assets from outsourced studios that were working on individual stuff. So it sounds like what it sounds like is that this could actually be a good thing, and that they've divested themselves of a bunch of Western, for the lack of a better word, Western properties that they didn't know what to do with, like, you know, Hitman and Just Cause, or not just Hitman and Tomb Raider and Deus Ex and that kind of stuff. I mean, they sold them to Embracer. That didn't work out, but like, they didn't seem like they knew what the hell they were doing with those properties, in my opinion, at least. Like, they wanted them to sell way more than they even would on their best day.
Yeah, but I mean, this is. I mean, we are past that even, right? I mean, that was a while ago. Is this like an acknowledgement that the post divesting those studios and those properties, like Square Enix leadership does not have it, or their publishing arm does not have it? Like, is that what this is ultimately saying? Because I mean, if you told me, hey, within Square Enix there are like templates to these games, or there are capital W ways to do these, that could need to be torn down, like I would absolutely believe it.
I think you are right in that this whole thing, like, here are the main takeaways for this. One, they're going to be focusing on high profile franchises like Final Fantasy. They're going to cut down on doing smaller things, which to me indicates that stuff like, Octopath or Bravely Default, or they put out a bunch of those smaller kind of old school throwback RPGs a few years back. They're going to be focusing on super high profile stuff, and then they're going to be trying to bring all of their development all under one roof, so they can have more direct control over the day-to-day development as opposed to trusting other studios to do stuff. Now,
that sounds like a pretty big admission of failure to me.
Yep.
Jesus.
So yeah, I don't know. I mean, if it means that Square Enix can do more interesting stuff, I'm all for it. Like, I used to really like those guys, and I just don't dig what they're putting out anymore. But I don't know.
It would be a shame if what we lost were the Octopath Travelers and the Bravely Defaults, so that we can get more cup ramen integrations with Final Fantasy or
Fantasy VIII remake.
Yeah.
Part 1 of 3.
Like animes too. Like, are we talking about like all these spin-off, like what it would be it would be cool if this whole thing meant a reduction in all of that stuff and not just game output. Because I don't think I joke about some of the games being bad, but like Octopath got a sequel. Bravely Default is a franchise. Like, I hope that this doesn't mean the end of those. That does seem like bean counting in a bad way.
It's very possible also that I might have the wrong read on that it might not be those games, that it might, when they talk about smaller games, that it might be like the
Balan Wonderland.
Yeah, stuff that's more like that. Or what the hell was the name? Like Foam Stars, or the what the heck was the, or Forspoken? I was thinking of like, Dio Field Chronicle, or there's Triangle Strategy.
There's you're scrolling through the list and I'm seeing a lot of like, wow, you spent
Voice of
on,
Cards,
like nothing like terrible, but a bunch of like, you had to have spent a bunch of man hours making Final Fantasy pixel remasters,
right?
And Saga Frontier and Legend of Mana. Like, not to even say that those are bad, but that takes up man hours. If what you're spending your time on is like remakes, I mean, maybe that's what we're talking about. Less remakes? Are they done remaking everything? I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe like Babylon's Fall.
Babylon's Fall. What the fuck is that?
That was
GP. Well, I don't know what the fuck that is. Triangle Savings. What does that say?
Triangle Strategy. That was the
triangle. Oh.
Yeah, the tactics RPG, or Stranger in Paradise. I don't know. Like, it's interesting to think about some of these. Like, there were some kind of weird things that were happening. That they made that. God, I forgot about that. It's 2022 Valkyrie Elysium. That was like a new Valkyrie profile game that I just came and went, and nobody gave any amounts of shit. But then like, Harvestella was like a farming game with like RPG battle elements to it, and I played that game. It seemed like it was okay for what it was. In fact, I heard a lot of good people talking about the Paranorma site, the Seven Mysteries of Hanjo.
I don't know. I mean, if It honestly is painting to me. This is painting an even worse picture, right? Because the idea was, okay, well, they got all these Western studios and these Western franchises that they really didn't know how to be a good publisher for them. So they let them go and they sold them off for scrap. But now it even seems like domestically they are not doing a great job with picking and publishing great games. Like not even that there's bad games or so games. Like, with Square Enix, I think there's a certain level of prestige. If what they're saying is we need to be prestigious, and what that means is they're publishing less. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they need some C-suite people who were into publishing to be like, because I played Foam Stars. I would love to spend some time talking about how fucking awful Foam Stars is, but I'm sure we don't have time.
We don't. It's so bad. I hate it. I hate it so much. Bad. I hate it so much.
It does the fucking Netflix thing where the subtitles don't match the dub. The subtitles don't match the dub, Jeff.
Oh, I was just like, it's just in my face with a million shiny things and foam and techno and foam Vegas, and here's a bunch of characters, and I could just care less about any of this. I'll go play Splatoon 3 if that's what I want to do. Thank you very much. But yeah. Anyways, made a lot of money sloshing around in the industry. Disney is investing $1.5 billion into Epic Games, which seems like a better idea than a lot of the stuff that Walt Disney does. Like, traditionally in the past, Disney buys a studio, they tell them to make a game, the studio makes that game, Disney is unsatisfied with the amount of sales, they end up shuttering the studio. That's like been their thing for a while now. But
historically bad at it. Like, it was a big deal that Disney got out of gaming because they were so fucking bad at it all the time.
And the companies that they bought that were making games, like, I didn't think they were making bad games. Like the Disney and Infinity games, I thought were real fun. And was it Blur, that racing game? Was that what it was?
That was it, or was it? It was like an action racing game where explosions and cinematic shit happened. Yeah.
But the thing is that Epic has shown that they have a very profitable, they're very profitable. They know what the kids want, and they already have a relationship with Disney. They've put all the, superhero and Star Wars skins into Fortnite, so they already have some kind of line between the two of them. And the idea of making like a chunk of Fortnite islands that are based on the Wreck-It Ralph or the Star Wars or any of the stuff that they bought, like, I would trust. And Epic's so big that they can't gobble them up, that I don't think they can force them to do stupid shit and then close them down. That Epic has enough autonomy and money that they could probably just, that they're going to be able to resist like a direct takeover by Disney, which is, I think, good, because I think Epic is better at making games than anything that Disney has done recently. So the only question I think I have is whether all this is planned to be like inside of Fortnite, whether this is an extension of Fortnite, or whether it's going to be like its own thing.
Yeah.
Hard to say.
It is, because I mean, I look at it like, what was it? Dreamlight Valley? And I look at that and just cock my head. I kind of don't understand how that has unfolded as like I don't know, what seemed at one point to be the big Disney like gaming idea, like Disney's I don't know, Animal Crossing.
Yeah,
but it seems like for I don't know it. So that is to say, I don't know, maybe they are going to make Dreamlight Valley 2. Is Epic going to make that? Or I don't think they put any Disney like islands into Fortnite. I bet you see more crossovers, or you'll see, more Marvel characters or whatever Madam Web is.
Well, that's Sony, right? So
I don't even fucking know what it is, Jeff. That's what I'm saying.
No, Bryce, that's part of the shitty Spider-Verse. That's Venom, Morbius, Madam Web, Kraven the Hunter, all the worst parts of Spider-Man all in one place, all for your viewing pleasure.
So it's probably that, right? Like Fortnite kids. Oh, maybe like because Lego's a part of it. Like the second part of this is like there's a Lego element to this, right? And like maybe that's what it is. Is like Disney Fortnite or Fortnite Kids, and it's got it's a Splatoon, like it's fucking Splatoon or Foam Stars, like whatever. Make a even more child friendly battle royale, like. I don't, because kids want to fucking shoot things. Like, I'm sorry, like kids want to play Grand Theft Auto. They want to steal cars and tanks and stuff. Like, just let them, yeah.
I guess it gives me hope that you might actually get like some good Star Wars properties, some good Marvel property. Like it's kind of insane to me that Star Wars and Marvel haven't been
don't have more games.
Yeah, that there aren't more games. Like you had this super popular MCU and just crap when it came to games. Same with Star Wars, where like they're I mean, you had Jedi Fallen Order and those things, but like I don't know. I felt like they were.
It's because you can't get the likeness rights. Like with the movies, like there's enough star power, especially in that phase of the MCU, where like, well, sure, if you made a Marvel, you could make an Iron Man game, but you can't have fucking Robert Downey Jr. or look anything like him because of the law. Like it's kind of why that Avengers game looked super fucking weird, because they didn't make them look like the people that you and your mom think of as the Avengers.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think that Epic is a little bit more. I may be giving them too much credit, but they just seem like a little bit more savvy about doing stuff. And you know, last year was the year before, or whatever, was the year where I actually played a little bit of Fortnite, and I was like, I see why they like this. It's a very slick, very well put together game, and the skins and stuff are very alluring and appealing and clever. So I get it, but
and. Like, you know, Disney, like Microsoft, dips their toes. Like, Disney made crypto and NFT things. Like, let's not pretend that they didn't. Like, if there's money in that Fortnite hill, then they'll go into it. And then there's other synergies between like the Unreal Engine and the filming stuff that they do, like all in the Star Wars shows. So
yep. Let's see. This is a little bit depressing. This is a story talking about how, you know, there's been a lot of talk recently about Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League and how this game being a live service is going to be its death. Because nobody is interested in live service games anymore. February 2nd, Games Industry did a poll of 537 development studios and found that around 500 of them reported back that they are currently working on live service games to come out over the next few years. So if we all thought that like, oh, well, at least the big live service gold rush is done. No, we are still in the middle of that. We are still going to be seeing a lot more games that have live service elements to them, in spite of the fact that it seems like nobody, at least that I know, seems to like them at all. And we all kind of just wish that you would make single player games that we'd be more than happy to buy, play, and then be done with, as opposed to trying to hook us on a don't you want to pay for this one game forever scheme, where our answer is like almost always no, in spite of the fact that, like, you know, even the things that were successful in this space are now unsuccessful. Like Destiny, right, is becoming less and less successful over time. Even Fortnite is down, as opposed to some of the previous years. So,
yeah. Well, I feel like what is it? Battlegrounds, PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds. I feel like I looked into that the other day, and like, oh, that like, like that shrunk in a. It's kind of it you kind of get the sense sometimes that like the gaming industry just wants to make everyone like addicts. They really just like want you to be addicted. Like even outside of like the loot box stuff, like a lot of the live service games, when I hear people who play those live service games talk about them, you know, whether it's Final Fantasy, whether it's The Division, whether it's World of Warcraft, all the years before and everything in between, like it's always felt like work. And it's always been a thing that they just kind of love to joke about hating and not liking. But they get some kind of dopamine rush. And just chasing all of that, it just feels like a only slightly more sly version of all of the loot box and microtransaction trends that we saw last decade. And it's also a bummer because I think you can make an argument that the push for live service games has made a pretty strong trend in gaming that has been negative, that has made for worse games.
Yeah.
But I don't need to recite that list again. I don't know. It feels like super common, but
it's funny. I think I'm going to end up being the one guy who has who carries the world's smallest torch for that Suicide Squad game. I played it all the way to the end last week, and I really liked it. Like, I liked the story. I thought the combat was really fun. The world was a little bland, but the combat was so fun that it made up for it. I did get to the end game and found that there was like, okay, at least they put the grindy, stupid part like at the end of the game. Like after you finish the game, the grindy part is the end game optional stuff where it's like, oh, I have to do these repeated encounters to get the currency that I need to go into this other dimension to get to level up my meta level to, get better gear. But
AKA, hey guys, our heroin dealer's got a bunch more heroin in his van.
Well, okay, but you know what? The thing I will say about that Suicide Squad game that's kind of interesting is that because people saw the battle pass when they first showed it at that state of play, and they ripped that out. There is no battle pass, and they've said that at least the first expansion that's going to be coming with a new character is free. And then, of course, the microtransactions are cosmetic, but then I don't really have much of a problem with cosmetic microtransactions. I would have a problem if you had to buy a battle pass to get the Joker when he comes out in March. But like, do you want a bunch of dippy old DC costumes? No, I have no problem saying no to that. Anyway, I don't know. That game I think has been, I think that you're going to see a story in 6 months where that game comes onto either Game Pass or PS Plus, and then suddenly it gets a lot of new people playing it when they don't have to buy it for $70, when they could just get it.
Even then, it's such a bummer that like that's the good outcome for these live service games.
Yeah,
is like they were kind of poo-pooed because live services were oversaturated or their live service implementation wasn't very good. And then, a couple years later, people go like, it was kind of mediocre, but like, honestly, like stale heroin still gets you high. and so I don't know. It would be good for games to be more enduring, towards the test of time, both mechanically and compatibility wise.
Absolutely. Let's see. There was an interesting story that came out kind of in the live service vein about Subnautica 2. This sounds like a weird thing where the developer and then like some PR person kind of got in a weird at odds with each other thing. So there was a financial report that the publisher of Subnautica 2, Krafton, said that it was a multiplayer-focused live service game. And everybody was like, wait, what? No, we don't want Subnautica to be a multiplayer-focused live service game. That's not the kind of game that you want to do that with. And then the developer came out and said, no, it's not. It's like it's going to be updated on a regular basis with new content like a normal game, and it's going to have the ability for you to play games with your friends, but that at its core it's going to be basically a Subnautica game, but you will be able to play it multiplayer if you want to. Like basically think Subnautica with a multiplayer mod added in. And then when they talk about like not like focused as a live service, but like a lot of video games, more content is added to the game over time as the developer puts more and more stuff in, not as a like, so you'll buy the battle pass, but just a like, hey, we did an update and there's coffee cups in the game now that you could use to drink coffee, and it makes your warmth meter go up or whatever, and they don't cost anything. It's just in patch 1.0.7, you know, that's coming next week, that has a new crafting mechanic and a thing. And so it sounds to me...
Didn't they do like expansions for Subnautica, like DLC? Like wasn't there like a frozen or an icy DLC pack that they did for Subnautica? Or am I thinking of something else?
That was a separate SKU. That was a separate game. Below Zero was a separate game. It was kind of like an updated and then streamlined version of Subnautica, where they kind of stripped it down and they made it a little bit more, a little bit faster to get through. So, but I think it's kind of interesting because the idea that, here's the thing. Here's a quote. In reference to games as service, we simply plan to continually update the game for many years to come, just like the previous two Subnautica games. Think our early access update model expanded. No season passes, no battle passes, no subscription. So it almost sounds like the publisher was trying to like take that language and then be like, it's a live service game to stockholders to make them excited about this as an upcoming release, which then of course backfired, and then the actual developer had to come out and be like, no, it's not that, it's actually just a regular video game. So,
well, it is co-op. Is it co-op? I'm assuming it's like online co-op.
I think it has the option.
Online game.
I think it has the option for co-op. That's like one of the big features in Subnautica 2 is an option to play with friends, which actually makes a lot of sense in Subnautica because you build the bases and you need like resource stuff. So like playing with your friends in Subnautica makes a lot of sense.
Is this not a live service? I mean, that sounds close enough that if I was a developer trying to fart something out for an investor call, I'd say, yeah, we've got our new hot sequel with new multiplayer action, and now you're a live service because you're playing our open world game, because open world and multiplayer means a live service.
I guess maybe what this does is it just says what's a live service, because from what you've just described, right, Baldur's Gate 3 is a live service game. You can play it with your friends. It continually updates. They add stuff to it, over time. Mm-hmm. But to me, live service means more like levels of battle pass. Like it's a thing where there are features or items in the game that you earn, like loot, right, by continually playing the game. Like there's an end game kind of loot mechanic, more like Avengers or Suicide Squad or Destiny or even World of Warcraft, where there's like you're trying to get these rare items so you can get your avatar to be stronger so that you can do more combat.
I guess outside of the mechanics of it, conceptually, aren't we talking about getting people to play online multiplayer? Like, isn't that ultimately what we mean by live service game?
That's not my understanding. I mean, my understanding is that I maybe there's a division to be made between like a game that has multiplayer and a multiplayer game, a game that was designed for you to play with other people versus a game that you can play with other people.
Like, is Minecraft a live service game?
I wouldn't think so, because it doesn't have tiers, loot, battle pass, or rewards that you would need to work at. It's just a game that has multiplayer
and like a semi-persistent world.
Yeah. But the difference being that, like, in Diablo, right, there's like seasons and like rewards for specific like actions that you do, like that to
like
me,
a
or
meta layer. Okay, yeah, I see that. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well then, okay, yeah, I guess like me as Bryce speaking to you, I understand the distinction here after us having this conversation about it. Mm-hmm. In a financial report, they'll call it a multiplayer-focused live service game because the fuckers got co-op.
Right. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yes. So.
Just funny. Yeah.
Let's see. speaking of games that are coming out, we've got a leak saying that all of the new Sega that we had that Sega group of games, Golden Axe, Shinobi, Jet Grind, Crazy Taxi, apparently are
Classics.
are all coming out for the Switch 2, according to a leaker. This is
now, Jeff. Now, I might be my molasses might be a little in the bottle today, but now I don't think we have a Switch 2. My Switch only has a number 1 printed on it.
Yeah, this is like the worst kept secret in all of, like, it got to the point where, like, developers, there was a thing from Andrew Wilson a couple weeks back where he was like, look, I'm not saying that there is a Switch 2, but I will say that we want to put all of our games onto as many platforms as it can support them. And so if there was another platform that we could put Madden on, we would definitely be interested in doing that, but I'm not saying there is a Switch 2 because you're not allowed to. I appreciate Nintendo's stoicism of remaining silent in the face of all leaks. So
because of fucking Sega. Sega made that mess. They can put it out.
Yeah.
So do we know what the Switch 2 will be? Will it just be like the same form factor and like better or like bigger? What do you think? What do you want the Switch 2 to be?
I think so my perfect world for the Switch 2 is that it's relatively the same form factor, but that it's got 4K, it's got a little bit beefier hardware, and then there's been a lot of rumors that Nintendo's going to use AI upsample tech to make things 4K, so they can keep the requirements, like they can keep the form factor of the system a little smaller and have it running a more modest power, but with a dedicated chip to basically smooth stuff out and get it running in 4K. And I know that you're not a fan of DLSS and AI upsampling, but I think that Nintendo doing it could be the best possible outcome, because you know that Nintendo's not going to let it out if that shit's janky. They're hammer on it until it works. At least that's the impression that I've got from Nintendo, based on, you know, the 3DS and the Wii and a lot of their corporate culture about making sure that stuff just works out of the box as opposed to being fiddly and weird.
What I see, okay, I see some of that.
Mm-hmm.
I could that. Like, I think if there exists sufficient like AI hardware, right, whether it's a DLSS thing or some other new unnamed chip from I don't know, Elon Musk or someone, like I think I could see Nintendo put one into a device in an age where they were putting them in like TVs or PC monitors, because I think like that is the next thing. Like, once someone makes a thing that does good upsampling, good, you know, real-time AI upsampling, adding detail, generative detail, then I think that blows open the doors on a lot of things. But then again, like, Nintendo doesn't go for top of the line hardware. Like a 4K tablet, like even these fucking iPads are not 4K. Like,
oh no, I think that the screen itself on the device will be like either 720 or 1080. But I think one of the big things that Nintendo is missing at this point is the ability to hook a Switch up to a 4K TV and get 4K out from a Switch. I mean, who knows? Maybe they just put the AI chip in the dock. Maybe it's like a thing where you just have a big beefy dock that then passes the video signal through and then upsamples it on its way to the TV, but still runs the hardware on the tablet natively. I don't know. I
don't see why Nintendo would do that, I guess, is the thing. When we look at the Switch where it is now, and it like is kind of struggling hardware wise, and the ways that they can go if they want to like keep pumping, like, you know, basically Android power into it. I just, you know, I feel like Nintendo's strategy tends to be lower on the technical side to keep prices low. Like if they did a 1080 device, if their thing was like 1080 screen, 1080 out, it's always going to be 1080. Lock it in at 60, Daniel. Like silky smooth, and it's always 1080. I think I can see that proposition if they're like switch to. Still, it's high def, $300, something relatively low on the low end of the price. That seems more real because I don't know, are those Asus things flying off the shelves? The Asus Steam Deck GOG things or ROG things? ROG Gamers, Republic of Gamers.
Oh yeah.
The high-end Stream Decks, like that's what that would be targeting, basically, right? Is like, okay, we'll make a switch to, but it'll be premium. Like,
I don't know. I guess it depends on whether they're trying to bust into the market of people who have PS5s and Xboxes, as opposed to whether the focus is on handheld or on docked mode or on both. But I don't know. It's hard to say. Hard to say. Okay, we have now run short on time, so we're getting ready to lightning. The lightning is getting ready to strike. So here it comes. We're probably going to have a new Virtua Fighter. Yeah, after seeing Virtua Fighter and Like a Dragon and stuff, we got this was another leak basically saying that like there's going to be a new Virtua Fighter. There hasn't been a new one of those for quite some time. I think the last one was released in it's like 2020 or something. There was a Virtua Fighter 5 re-release on like Steam or something like that. So, but yeah.
Were you missing Virtua Fighter? I was not missing it.
No, I was not. I know some people are, but no, absolutely not. That game has always been too technical for me to really get into. So, Capcom wants to know if you want some Dino Crisis. You want some Dino Crisis? This is a new survey from Capcom. Yeah, on their website asking if people want new entries in things like Dino Crisis or Onimusha, and then they also had a separate thing asking if people wanted a full-on remake of things like Onimusha, Final Fight, or like Rival Schools.
Ace Attorney? No, not Ace Attorney 1 through 3 again. No. No. Why would they? Is that a joke? Did they put it on the list as a joke? No. How many fucking no. I have the amount of fucking times I've had to buy that fucking trilogy. No.
Well, that would be moving it from the 2D that it was to 3D, like the last two games were.
No.
Okay. It wasn't me. It was Capcom. Neil Druckmann thinks he's got an idea for Last of Us Part 3. For a long time, he said he didn't, but he now has come up with not a story, but a general idea that could make for a really fun Last of Us, or not fun is the wrong word, but an engaging story with Last of Us 3. It seems like that Naughty Dog wants to milk that franchise directly into for as long as it will be a thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if in 5 or 6 years we finally see a trailer for Last of Us 3. Yeah. On the Switch 2. Cyberpunk.
4K, the 8K Switch 2.
Cyberpunk 2077 sequel has brought on a bunch of interesting developers. We got a few folks from BioWare and a few other narrative folks from Blizzard, Amazon, and even somebody from IO Interactive. I like the names that I'm reading here. I'm hoping that they learned their lesson with the first one and that the next one will be more complete on launch as opposed to having to be something that is fixed later on down the road.
Yeah, absolutely.
Persona 3's director says that the Persona 3 Reload director has said there is not going to be a Golden or Royale edition or any kind of expanded edition for Persona 3 anytime in the near future.
I don't believe you.
Yes, Bryce.
I don't believe you.
Here's the quote. Currently, we are not considering a revision like with Persona 5 to Persona 5 Royale, which involves significant changes and additions to the original title. Fans can rest assured knowing that Persona 3 Reload offers a complete experience, which is just weaselly enough that in 3 years they will probably announce Persona 3 FES Reload to EX.
Yes. FES Portable at Home Edition HD 4K.
Yep.
On the Switch 2.
Let's see.
Fuck you. Fucking Alice. Hop off. I'm like Jim Cramer. I'm pushing sell on Persona.
You have a very complicated relationship with Persona, Bryce. There was another big update to the Steam backend tree for Elden Ring that indicates, again, that there's...
The Erd tree?
Yes, that the DLC might be coming very, very soon. They keep doing updates with DLC with additional packages that have not been published, but since the Steam backend is public, you can see whenever they do updates to it. People have thought that we were going to see this in February, but if they're going to put this out in February, they need to put out a goddamn trailer really soon.
Are people expecting it to just like shadow drop one day? Is that the idea? Because otherwise, I'd known a video game company that won't tell you ahead of time when their thing's going to come out.
Well, From Software tends to be a slightly more conservative when it comes to building hype over a long period of time. Like, I think Armored Core only had like 2 full trailers before it came out, and it was in a relatively short amount of time. I mean, it was rumored for a long time, but it did
turn around really quick.
Yeah. So, and if they did put it out in February, it would be like the 2-year anniversary of the launch of Elden Ring was in February of 2022, I believe. So, if it came out in February of 2024, that would be 2 years. But at this point, there is nothing more than... I mean, it is a little weird that they would be putting anything on Steam if they were still in a lot of active development. I think that does indicate that they're getting close to something, whether it comes out in February or whatever. Who can say?
It's February, but it's 2025.
Yes. There's a report that Tencent is making a mobile version of Elden Ring. I don't know why this is a thing. I don't know why anybody would want to play Elden Ring on an iPhone. It seems incredibly silly, but sure. I mean, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, if the idea is like they're going to make a universal version of it so that you can play it on a Mac and an iPad and iOS like they've been doing with Death Stranding or Resident Evil, then okay. I mean, they're really pimping Lies of P on the Mac App Store.
Yeah.
They really want you to know that they have their own Souls-like game, and it's called Lies of P.
And then last, before we wrap up this segment, there was a One Punch Man that came out, and it had something that's absolutely ridiculous. So in the store for the One Punch Man game that came out, there is a character pack that is $99.99 on sale from $999.90. So $1,000 character pack slashed to $100 for a limited time. What a deal! You're saving $900 on your crappy gacha character game, Bryce. With deals like this, I don't know how you could not immediately buy $100 worth of DLC for a crappy gacha game based on one of my favorite animes that has been off the air for like a decade. So yeah.
Look. And there's some people who go to Kohl's and they point out that all of the prices on the price tags are fucking fake because not everything is on sale all the time. Some people just go shop. Some people just know that the shirt costs $26 and that's the price of the shirt. And whatever they said it used to cost, we know that doesn't really mean anything.
I think they mentioned in this article that like technically that's illegal in the UK, that like in the UK at least you can't just always be on sale. It can't just be like, oh, we're permanently on sale. Like you have to at some point sell the thing for the amount of money that it takes. But I don't know if that applies to these guys. Anywho,
it's addiction.
Yeah. I'm not going to play that game anyway. I don't know. I'm so sad about that franchise. But with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap this part up. We got one more part. We're going to look at some trailers. So stick around, and we'll be right back in just a minute with more podcast. And we are back for one more part here. We've got some trailers to look at. Bryce, you ready for the trailers?
Trail me up.
Okay. Our first trailer this week is from the Knuckles, the Echidna spin-off series from the Sonic the Hedgehog movies that is coming to Paramount Plus, where Knuckles gets to go to like Australia or something and become like he's like a tough guy fighting Echidna. And he's got a goofy human sidekick, and it's a 6-episode limited series on Paramount Plus. What are your overall feelings about the Sonic the Hedgehog movies? I have not watched any of them because I hate that blue son of a bitch. But
I enjoyed the first one a good bit.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed it and like acknowledge it as very much like a very heartland family movie. Like it was well written, family friendly, good gags, good action. I have not seen the second one yet. I probably will at some point. And the thing about having just like a really safe comedy like that is, yeah, you could stretch it out over 6 hours. I'm sure you can.
Mm-hmm.
Like do the same like human alien gags, give them a place to drive to, and then have a big fight at the end. Like it's not rocket science.
It's very weird to me, the state of Sonic the Hedgehog in the year 2024, because I for all of my money in the world was like, this franchise, these characters, they are on their way out. The nostalgia has finally been used up, and then like, oh no, Jeff, you're gonna suffer this shit for long time.
Oh my god, the villains have like a big bionic Knuckles. That's great.
Yep.
Oh, it's so perfect, and it like makes so much sense for Paramount. Plus, it's like super safe. Like you would love it, Jeff, because there's nothing wrong with it. Like it's anybody. Like it's. Yeah.
So there's
ESPN ate the Ocho. They have a fucking the Ocho joke in the fucking trailer for. That's great. Okay.
Yeah. First off, I wasn't aware that ESPN ate the Ocho had a life outside of dodgeball, which is amazing. I will say I absolutely love Idris Elba, and the fact that Knuckles is Idris Elba, that has more of an allure to me, where it's like, oh, you could watch this funny Australian Knuckles comedy that doesn't have any of Sonic or Tails in it. Well, it has some of them in it, but I don't know. I've always liked Knuckles more because he's the edgy bad boy, but not so edgy as Shadow. Shadow is too edgy for me. He's got his gun.
You have to. It sounds like you have to watch this, Jeff. It sounds like you need to subscribe to Paramount Plus.
I'm already subscribed to Paramount Plus, and I don't know. I was thinking about firing it up to watch that new Halo series, even though I didn't watch the first one, and now I've got this.
I hear the second season's good.
Maybe that's what I need to do from now on, is I'm only going to watch like the spin-off / other season. I'm going to watch seasons divorce. I'm going to watch season 2 and 6 of Halo, and I'm going to watch just the Knuckles spin-off without looking at any of the Sonic stuff. Yeah. I don't know. It is interesting to see in 2024 how it seems like it's got really good production values as well. Like there's some actual money on display, and there's not a disconnect between the weird CGI people and the actual humans. So I don't know.
Yeah, that stuff's come a long way. Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a good thing they saved. It's a good thing they changed that design of Sonic, huh?
Yeah.
Hey, it's kind of a good thing they fucking did that, huh? It's kind of a good thing they.
What did you think about the about Ugly Sonic showing up in the Chip and Dale movie that they came out with a few years back, where they have the rejects, and Ugly Sonic is like doing the convention circuit with like a booth that says Ugly Sonic, and he's got the teeth and everything.
Great. That was great. But you know, and that's the thing where of like an auteur, like because that was like the Lonely Island doing the script for that, I think, right? Or at least Andy Samberg was involved. I'm pretty sure. But like that was like a super funny movie that had that like had a like driven creative voice behind it, kind of like Barbie. Like, yeah, it could, that idea on paper could just be like a license fest. Yeah, Akiva Schaffer, who's done a bunch of great comedy stuff. And so when you get someone who says like, yeah, we'll give you our brand and like some flexibility to toy around, and you get ugly Sonic, involved. Like it's that kind of stuff is great. I like seeing that sort of stuff, and that's I guess what I like enough about Sonic was, it was good. It was good for that. Yeah.
It didn't waste your time. Killed a few hours. It was fine.
Yeah, it was fun. I really like the action, like all the high speed, slow motion stuff. Like that motherfucker's fast.
Let's see. We also got the season 6 trailer. I didn't realize that Disney Speedstorm was still a thing, and so I was amazed to see.
Doesn't do games.
No, but this is the free to play like Mario Kart live service game, and they're doing season 6, which is all Little Mermaid Under the Sea theme. So if you ever wanted to see Ursula the Sea Witch driving a go-kart in a video game, well, Bryce, you don't wait no longer. It's available now. You can drift as King Triton in a go-kart under the sea, so to speak. I wish you guys could see the look on Bryce's face. It's kind of inexplicable, like, but why?
I mean, okay. It looks like Mario Kart. Like, it fucking looks like Mario. Like,
oh, yeah.
The carts are Mario Kart. Wow, when was this?
A Speedstorm?
Gameloft thing. Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know. I feel like for as much as I look, this is like hosted on the PlayStation YouTube channel. As much as I go through the fucking PlayStation store looking for new things, have I never fucking heard of Speedstorm? That's ridiculous to me.
It was, let's see.
I play racing games.
It was last year. It came out last year. And they've had 6 seasons. They had like
had 6 seasons?
Toy Story, Monsters Incorporated, like they had a Frozen season and shit. Like, yeah. Is this what you're going to use your racing wheel for now? Is season 6 of Disney Speedstorm? Get online and trounce the 8-year-olds in Disney Speedstorm.
Really feel the grip in Ursula's cart.
Yeah, I remember when we played it for RageSelect, and it seemed like it was fine. It was like it wasn't the worst thing I've ever played in my life, but it's just I'm not as big of a racing fan. So yeah, there's a Lilo and Stitch season and Toy Story and all kinds of stuff. So
I don't want to say it's bad, but just when like this is the result of a lot of synergy, right? Like throw all of the Disney characters into a free to play racing game, and you could have something that potentially is at like comps to Rocket League or to Mario Kart, right? But I don't like. Why aren't you pushing this? Maybe it's bad. Maybe it is bad. But like, then if it's bad, like you shouldn't be more of a publisher, Disney.
Yeah.
I'm just a little thrown. I'm thrown.
Mostly positive on Steam. Well, some mixed recently, but yeah.
And then being free to play is like its own spin on the conversation on it. But
yeah,
I just hate to see something that should be the fruit of all of this conglomeration and feeling like, oh, okay, it just means like it's just more seamless for them to make mashup license games. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Let's see. In other crossover news, Party Animals. Let me start over. In the continuing effort to get Cult of the Lamb in every other video game that has ever occurred in the history of mankind, Party Animals now has the lamb from Cult of the Lamb as one of those wackadoo guys, and he looks real silly and stupid because he's in the Party Animals style. So, that was a fun game. I had a lot of fun with that game.
Was that like a gang boss,
gang beasts,
gang beasts type of thing? Yeah, cool.
Yeah, you just get online and do like real small mini games of like whoever's last on the log wins, and so you're pushing people off with a janky physics model, and it's real goofy and fun. So,
that's cool.
It's also on Game Pass. Helldivers 2 is finally out, so we got after a whole bunch of trailers, we got the official story so far trailer for Helldivers 2, which goes over what happened on Super Earth between Helldivers 1 and Helldivers 2. It is incredibly like it is incredible. It's such a satire that I'm worried that people on the internet will take it seriously, where they're talking about like super democracy and how our like our brave labor workers are risking their lives for the front line of Super Earth's capitalist society. But here come the evil socialist robots to steal your children, and only valiant helldivers can defend against the oncoming onslaught of socialist robots and hordes of bugs.
What the fuck is this game, Jeff?
Oh, Helldivers was...
I need Brian Cox to explain this game to me right now.
Helldivers 1 was a game. It was an online multiplayer game where you fought hordes of enemies from a top-down perspective, and you would have a squad of 4 people. You could call in like artillery strikes and mechs and like resupply and stuff like that. And then they made a second one, and the second one is 3D. So it's like a third-person action game. Where you're kind of behind the back, and you're coming down with these kind of stormtrooper looking guys, and you're fighting like hordes and hordes and hordes of bugs and or robots, and then you can call in again like artillery and resupply and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's got a real tongue-in-cheek kind of wrapper on
Starship
it.
Troopers.
Yeah,
sort of. Yeah.
That's all about Super Earth and like the valiant Helldivers, but then they all show them just dying in droves and being kind of goofy and stuff. But we're gonna check it out on RageSelect next week. It looks action packed.
Okay.
It's I was a little surprised that it's not on PS Plus or free to play. It is a full $40 video game, but at this point, if that means that they don't have to like grind that live service model that we were talking about before, because they're actually going to get money from selling the product that they spent years making, then like, all right, that's fine with me.
Does it have live service like season passy elements, or is it like a co-op campaign?
It's not. I don't know that it has like a story thing. I remember the previous one having like one of those like a persistent universe map where you and the Helldivers are working to conquer like a sector at a time online. I don't know if it has a season pass or microtransaction elements to it. I haven't looked into it that far. I downloaded it, but I haven't fired it up yet. Okay. The first one didn't, but I don't know. Yeah, looks pretty good. We got news of a DLC for Ghost Runner 2. This is the Year of the Dragon pack, so this is mostly just, there's some sword skins, some bike skins, some hand skins to celebrate the Year of the Dragon that are free to download in Ghost Runner 2. So if you're into that sort of thing, bada bing, bada boom. I can never really get into Ghost Runner. It was a little bit too frenetic, and I could never click with it. It was just a little bit too much for my old man brain. I wasn't into like the way they were setting up the story. I had a tough time just getting into like you're a cyber gutter trash, fuck you, run around. I don't know. Let's see. This is one that I hadn't heard of before, called Neon Blood. That's like a cyberpunk detective story where you play as this guy, and it's all like pixel, like kind of 3D pixel based. So, but it's got that kind of cool like pixels, but then with like real time lighting on it, and a kind of you can run towards the camera 3D thing.
Not unlike an Octopath.
Yeah, but then there's this whole part where they show the main character just like shooting and blasting and parkouring his way through like a whole police, like a room full of police, and it seems incredibly violent. And I'm like, yay, I love it. Cyberpunk with violence. Ooh. Yeah.
Okay. That seems neat. That's a cool little like teaser. I would like to see what that looks like, because I don't know. I feel like I end up seeing a lot of games that look cool, and then they just end up being kind of side-scrolling brawler games. Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
I mean, I wonder. There's a lot of action in here, but then I wonder. sometimes you can
be
get
a cutscene.
Yeah, this could all just be like, it could be a point and click adventure game where it's just these bits of violence, or when you click use gun on cops and then you watch this pre-rendered action scene. So yeah, I would like to see more just to get a better idea of what exactly it is. But I never heard of it before, and I watched the trailer and I was like, hey, it looks cool.
Is there a developer on that?
At the beginning, what was interesting,
it was like an indie thing. Like it was like a
Chaotic Brain Studios, but at the beginning, yeah, it had this thing I'd never seen before of like PlayStation Talents Game Camp. I'm like, I have no idea what that is. Yeah, I've never heard of that before.
Yeah,
so
that must be like some, I don't know, some indie fund, or some right?
Maybe. Is that?
Yeah, I don't know.
That can't be the same.
Listeners, write in to leave a YouTube comment below to let us know. Hey, man, the last time I did that, I went back on some of those last videos where I did that, and people actually did answer our very specific questions about whatever the fuck we were talking about in the comments.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Let's see. We also got this announcement trailer for a game called Evil v Evil.
Evil.
That is some kind of like first-person action vampire game where you're like shooting people in a very Doom-like fashion, but then you can also like suck their blood and use crazy vampire blood powers with a variety of different characters. And it reminded me a lot of when I played Blood Rain, how there was just like so much like violence and blood and like power fantasy where you're really going after huge mobs of characters. And at first I thought that this might be a like one of those God, what was that one game where it's just like it's mostly about the action and there's not much of a story. But I looked it up and there is apparently like a full story campaign for the game, as well as this kind of co-op action Left 4 Dead PvE style thing. But I like the look of how smooth and destructive everything is. There's a lot of shit exploding into blood everywhere, and as a fan
it kind of looks like Borderlands-y also. Like there's a little bit, just the way that the colors and the character textures are painted with like the very specific use of like glowing effects. For some reason, like the glowing effects just make me think, oh, this is like a Borderlands, huh?
Also, I think that the health bars above the characters' heads really sell that a little bit. So I don't know. I really like. I hope that this. There's no reason that a game like this can't be good. It looks like it could be kind of generic, but it could also be one of those ones where it's like, no, really, this one is actually good, and you should check it out. So,
yeah. The bummer is like there's literally not space for every game to be a multiplayer game.
Yeah.
Like it's tough.
I've said it before. There seems to be like these weird. There's got to be an incentive that I don't understand, because it seems like when you spend a lot of earnest time and effort coming up with a very creative, very well put together single player game, that it sells like fucking gangbusters, and that it seems like these live service games don't hold their player count long enough to actually recoup the investment the way that you want to, that by switching it to a battle pass system, you immediately start losing subscribers as people can't keep up with the seasons and don't want to just play this one game over and over again. But there must be some kind of financial incentive for them to keep doing it, because at the end of the day, it's a business, right? So if these online games weren't making some amount of money, or more money than just throwing money into a single player development, I get the feeling that they wouldn't just be continually trying the same thing and losing money every day, doing the exact same thing over and over again. There's got to be some kind of financial incentive to do this stuff, but
I think there's also, over the past couple of years, I think there's been ripe potential for another shooter to pop up. I think with those like asynchronous horror games all three of them that had like the exact same name, and all have licensed characters, but none of like the same licensed characters, and it's impossible to tell which. Like those kind of came out of like there's it. I see where there's still publishers who think that there are more live shooter games or co-op shooter games. Anyone can be the next hit thing, right? Like what was it that the Power World people were out there saying? Oh man, we don't have enough people. We need more people, please. We need to hire more people for a remarkably successful game,
right?
Because we weren't ready for it.
Yeah,
like that could happen to anybody. So I get why, but it's a bummer to see so many again seemingly fine games get carted off to die just because of statistics.
Yeah, I agree. Skull and Bones is finally coming out. February 16th.
Fuck you.
No, they were an open beta this week. It's coming out February 16th.
An open beta my ass.
5 days from now, Skull and Bones is going to be out, and if you pre-order the $99 edition, you can play it 3 days early. Bryce, Skull and Bones is finally coming out. Bryce.
No, it's not. No, this is not real. Well, first off, this trailer is definitely not real. Like, fuck you. That this is all Ubisoft bullshit trailer shit. But is it time? Is it time for this? Is it the right time? 7 years late?
Absolutely not. Nobody is interested in this game. It's going to be one of the most colossal financial failures in the history of video games. Nobody wants to play. We just got done watching the Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League Rocksteady game sell way below expectations. The Assassin's Creed Pirate online multiplayer spinoff. I mean, I shouldn't say like it's possible that they
the people like the Assassin's Creed Pirate stuff. That's the thing people liked.
Maybe it's great. Maybe they did spend all these years and all that development time is going to end up being like, you know what? It's a surprisingly fun game. I don't think it stands for, I don't think a $70 price tag for this game works in 2024. But the problem just keeps coming into like, I just don't know enough people that are so into pirates that they want to do this over and over and over again. Like, obviously this trailer is very exciting looking, but that's not anything like what it's going to be to play the game. I've seen what it's like to play the game, and it's like, camera behind your ship, looking at the number on another ship, deciding whether you want to try to get the loot from that so you can level up, so you can get a better ship, so you can get more loot, so you can level up, so you can get a better ship.
And unlike Sea of Thieves, like this is not exactly cartoony either. Mm-mm. Like this kind of looks like Assassin's Creed, where it's this sort of relatively humanistic look, the kind of generic Ubisoft look for games.
Yeah.
Which I think kind of makes it a little less approachable. But I also think you have a lot more, leeway if you have a more realistic pirate game and you're doing realistic pirate stuff instead of shooting skeletons all day.
True. Very true.
I don't know.
All I know
it's not coming out. And also it's not coming out.
I pay for Ubisoft Plus, and so I will not have to pay $70 for this game. I will get it with my Ubisoft Plus subscription for $9.99 a month or whatever the hell that costs.
Will you get it 3 days early though, Drew?
I probably will, actually.
You probably will, yeah.
So, let's see. Another weird, adjacent pirate ships on the sea, ships in the sky. We got a release date trailer.
Spaceships. They're called spaceships.
For a game called Breachway that looks like it's so up my alley I can barely stand it. It's like a online roguelike kind of Slay the Spire, but you're doing a spaceship, but then there's like cards. Like you get cards and you use cards to fight. It's kind of got that FTL like split screen where you see your ship and then the other ship, and when you shoot, your shots go off the side, and then they come over to the other side and they blast on the ship.
But this is a card game. This is not.
Yes, this is more of a card game than it is. I mean, it's a card game with a spaceship wrapper on it, but I'm such a sucker for spaceships that I don't care. I'll play anything with a spaceship in it at least once.
This is a like really well put together like setup.
Yeah.
This looks cool.
Very clean, like very easy to comprehend what's going on. Big numbers, you know. I don't know. Is big numbers? Does everybody understand what I mean when I just say like there's a lot of big numbers going back and forth?
It's like accessible. Like it reads like a card game, not none of it.
Yep,
I don't know.
Yep. I need to check out. They had a Steam like Fest thing. I think they have a demo for it on there. So I need to check that out.
Maybe you should do a video about it.
I've already got all my videos done. There's too many games right now. Another game that was on the Steam. What is it called? Next Fest is we finally got a demo for Homeworld 3 after all this time. It was a FIG campaign. It's been in development over at Gearbox for a gajillion years by Blackbird Interactive, and they finally put out a demo for it. And not just any demo. It's a thing called War Games that's like a kind of a roguelike mode where you can you kind of get random upgrades at the end of every battle, and so you have to kind of play through increasing waves of different types of more powerful ships. I downloaded the demo and I started playing it, and I got halfway through the tutorial and I was too sleepy that day, and I was like, this is too sanguine with this ethereal background music and these very calm people going like, squad 2 accept, confirm
Shields
moving
up.
Squad 2 moving.
Fire.
And
nuclear weapons.
We're engaging. Yeah. Though what's actually really interesting was that this game was supposed to come out in March, and they actually pushed it back after this demo came out because they said they got a bunch of feedback about how the controls work, and they want to do some more tweaking to make sure that it's accessible as possible. So instead of March 8th, it's going to be coming out May 13th.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That seems like okay. Yeah.
I don't know. I've always wanted to love Homeworld, but like the first one was too hard and I just couldn't hack it. And then by the time the second one came out, I've always thought that there needed to be more of these kind of like capital ship battle games because there just aren't that many. And that's like Bryce, that's almost exclusively the fiction that I read is Captain Space Pants and his dreadnought going up against the alien scourge and launching fighters and rolling to port. And I was like, if only I could play a video game that tapped into that same thing. Yet they're all so damn technical that it's like, it's none of the action that I want. So
yeah, space games are always like. They always make whatever genre they are like twice as complicated, I feel like.
Yep.
And I already can't do a real time strategy game. That's not I don't know how to do that. And then setting one in space, like fuck me.
I wish there were more games where it's like not like privateer fighter games, but like you had a capital ship. Like I'm the captain of this battleship Infinity, and like just have some missions where you make driving the one ship around and fighting with it, and then maybe like 3 hours in you get a second ship that now you can like split your forces over here and over here. But they always tend to it's always with that style is always like a fighter where they give you like one little ship like Chorus or Ever Space or whatever that game was, and then the ones where you have a capital ship, it's always like here's 12 capital ships, make sure that you move them at the z-axis at the correct time delta, and I'm like, God, no, I can't, the math is too hard.
So it's not for me. It's not for me. There are many genres out there that are not for me. That's how the world works.
What if you control your capital ship with a racing wheel? What if you could take your racing wheel?
Okay, all right. Okay, now I can do that shit in however many parsecs. You tell me you want it in 12, I'll do it.
Yep. Another game that was on the Next Fest. I had never heard of this before. This is a Devolver published game called Children of the Sun. And it appears to be this kind of real lo-fi, sketchy, strange thing where there's like a cult and you play as somebody who got out of this cult and you're coming back to exact your revenge. But the mechanic for it is that you're a sniper, but when you shoot, it does the kind of like Sniper Elite, like you follow the bullet, but then it's also got a super hot thing where when you hit something, you can kind of like burn out after touch your bullet and turn it like to hit something else in another direction to create like these chains of murder. Like it's kind of like a puzzle sniper game where you're trying to find the path to hit the most people at the same time. Looks really cool.
Was this made by someone who makes every Ubisoft puzzle ever? One line. Yes, that's right. The one line puzzle. Yep. Like, because this is a really cool way to like do that type of thing. Like this looks really cool, and it looks like the Watch Dogs 2 game.
Well, but
the webcams,
going between the different hack webcams. I also like you aren't hearing it because just but they use
I refuse to listen to you.
They use a very like a cover of it was that song that Kurt Cobain sang in the Unplugged, that like my girl, like down by the pines, like, or where did you sleep last night? It's like an old folk standard, and it really gives it a kind of a crunchy, hard boiled kind of theme. So
okay, there we go. Children of the Sun.
Children of the Sun. Yep.
Is that out? Is that like a demo or something?
They put a demo on that Next Fest when they announced it, but that's almost like by the time this comes out, that'll be almost over because I think it only goes through the 12th. So they're time limited.
Well, there you go. Get dunked on, listeners.
Yep.
What else?
Let's see. Blockbuster Incorporated has put out a free prologue, and a little teaser for this. This is one of those like the movie studio simulation games, but I think with this one you might be able to do something that a lot of the people that like these, like my friend John specifically is a big fan of these, where you can actually export the movie that you make. Like you do the management sim, but then you can actually kind of make something that looks like a movie and kind of string it together. And I downloaded this prologue and started doing it, and again I got bored when I had to designate bathrooms for the actors to go to the bathroom in, and I was like, that's not what I want to do.
Oh man, I hope that is a thing with these like spiritual successor games that really bums me out, is when they go more complicated.
Yep.
And like Parkitect, I like Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 a lot. Parkitect should be up my alley, but they added like, I don't give a fucking shit about logistics pathways. Like I don't care. Can I please do it? Make a scrambled eggs.
Yeah.
Like there have been similar things with casino games, builder games. There was like a deluge of everyone trying to make their own, but it was kind of complicated and people are overcomplicating it. And so I hope that doesn't happen here with, Blockbuster Inc. and the movies, because the movies was fantastic. And it did have that. It was really cool for having like the ability to make scenes and export like little movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. My friend John, he still has his copy of the movies, and unfortunately, I think it stopped running around like Windows 10. Like you can't get it to run in Windows 10. But that like a lot of people would be interested in that in something like that. You know what? If they were smart, they would make that a full-on expansion to The Sims. They would make the next Sims thing basically like give you the ability to set up a movie studio and then use all the shit from the Sims to then direct your Sims to do stuff and then be able to like export a movie at the end of it. Because
I think, well, I guess I don't know what like the user interface stuff is, but I think that there are people in the Sims communities who have mods that do things like that. Like I know the built-in games do have a surprising amount of camera controls, and I know people like it's not like Source filmmaker level, but I know people like make videos in the Sims games. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them work that into the next Sims game, or like, what's that Sims knockoff that they're making? Life by You.
Oh yeah,
Life About You.
There's like two. I had one. Actually, I had one on the list for this week. There was like a walkthrough for Paralives.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like a Sims clone thing that's been.
That looks bad.
Yeah,
it's like a Patreon early access thing. Okay, yeah, that looks bad.
Yeah. I don't know. People have a lot of feelings about The Sims, so
I'm surprised it's taken this long for Sims knockoff games to be made. Only maybe just because all those people went to work on The Sims, and The Sims 4 was just like the pinnacle or something. But yeah, I guess sim games are tough to make, right? Simulations.
It's possible. I don't know. I'm not a Sims guy, so I don't really know. I'm more of a classified France 44 guy, which is a tactics game where you get to shoot Nazis and stuff, which seems pretty cool and is coming out, like, I think next week. What is it? When is it?
Wow, this looks old school.
March 5th. Yeah. Not next week, couple weeks, but yeah.
A month.
Very throwback, but
yeah. Wow. Okay, cool.
Yeah. I wanted to show you this trailer. Do you remember that game Lake?
Oh, yes.
Where you're the post office lady?
Yeah.
So it's coming out on the Switch, and I don't believe that they put this out. Like, you can look at the frame rate of my webcam as I talk to you, and then look at the frame rate of what this game looks like and the resolution of the textures that are in it. And like, Lake is not exactly like a hardcore, super detailed game, but like, wow, this looks really, really rough. Like sub 20 FPS. Jaggedy textures all over the damn place. Like, it looks terrible.
It does look like the fidelity is not great. I will say, I tried playing Lake when they added it on the PlayStation Pass a few months ago, and it is very much not my cup of tea. But I also would not have said that game is anything to write home about when I played it. So that's a bummer it is a bummer to see like Switch games not get good ports, even for something that should be low impact like this.
Yep. Let's see. This is really strange. Inkle, that indie developer that does what all do they do? 80 Days, Heaven's Vault, a Highland Song, I think was the last thing that they put out. That were these kind of indie games. They came out with this thing for Google called the Forever Labyrinth that is like kind of a browser-based point-and-click game that's like a procedurally generated labyrinth that you go through, but it pulls out of Google has like a repository of like high-resolution scans of like artwork that they use to kind of interact with these characters, and then they have real-world art pieces that you can kind of look at that kind of factor into this thing. I'm not entirely sure from the description what it is. It says like, oh, it's going to be different every time, but I was impressed at again, just in this trailer, some really like high fidelity scans of really nice looking artwork. So
it almost has like what is it, the Encarta Tower sort of vibes, huh?
Oh yeah.
Like they need some trivia sections in between, and it'd be spot on.
Yep.
That's cool. And Google doing like a arts. This is like their arts and culture or something. So, I think this looks really nice.
Yep. And it's also free. You can play it in a browser.
Hey.
goo.gl/Forever Labyrinth. So.
Love it. I love a good long shortcut.
And then last on the trailer parade, we got the trailer for this game called Lost Helden. That's like a JRPG with this very, very nice like painterly style in the characters. Like it reminds me a lot of the League of Legends thing on Netflix.
Arcane.
Arcane. Yeah, that it kind of ends up looking like that. It's hard to tell in the early parts. And then, it's got a bunch of people, like a bunch of big names of like producers and directors and stuff working on it that have done a lot of other high profile stuff. And then they also had a synopsis for it, and boy howdy is it just one of like the most anime JRPG synopses I've ever heard, where it's like, oh, every person in this world when they're born is connected to one of the 7 deadly sins that will torment them over their life, but if they can avoid indulging in whichever sin that is, then they're fine, and if they do, then they become a monster. And so you've got these like archons that like police it, and then there are twins born, and one of them inherits all 7 of the deadly sins and the other one inherits none, and they're both sent to be grown up with the protectors of the realm. And then one day the brother with all 7 deadly sins escapes, and now you have to go with a bunch of the protectors of the realm to find your brother who may be doing terrible shit. I'm just like, this sounds like so many RPGs, so many JRPGs that I played over the years.
I think like, yeah, the visual style is really nice. But here's some other games from Artisan Studios. Astria Ascending. Did you play that?
Maybe.
Pretty generic. What about?
Yes, I did play Astria Ascending. It was pretty cool. It was actually very nice.
I thought it was pretty generic. What about Super Neptunia?
Oh, the waifu console game? Those are very popular games.
Anyway, I think the style looks, I think it does look, that trailer does look visually nice. I don't know. I'd like to see more about it, because it was a pretty nice looking trailer, to be honest.
Yep. Let's see, and then let's wrap it up with a few things. Satisfactory 1.0 is coming this year, so if you're into Satisfactory, they're going into full 1.0 release this year at some point.
I thought they already had.
Yep, I did too, but then I saw this news story and I was like, oh, I guess not. And then that's kind of it. Not a lot for release stuff, but we did find out that the Suicide Squad, people think that they might have accidentally leaked who the next character after Joker is going to be, due to a bug in the game where Brainiac calls one of the characters Freeze. Says, I didn't expect you to be the weak link in this chain, Freeze. And it's like, oh, so it's gonna be Mr. Freeze? Is that which would make an interesting amount of sense, but
well, so when would, I mean, was this because of that issue that they had where like where you would boot the game and it would like say you beat the game? Like, is it just like that's like the end credit tag?
It seems more that like,
were people not supposed to hear that? Like,
it seems more of a thing where somebody was playing the game and then it just incorrectly played this combat bark that probably shouldn't have been set to on, but was accidentally like filtered, that accidentally got into the game when they were playing. So I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. Wow, that's a very specific bug.
It's a very strange way to see a leak. Like, yeah. And then there's also another thing. This is like there's a bunch of calendars in the game that have like in Suicide Squad that have specific dates marked on them, and that if you put the order of the calendars in chronological order, and then you translate each date to the corresponding letter in the alphabet, you get this "He will return" thing. And then apparently the last one has a bat symbol on it, so people are thinking that this might be that Batman is coming back at some point. I don't know. Hard to say.
Isn't he in the Justice League?
Yes.
Now, just a simple video game player here, but I'm told that they have been killed by the Suicide Squad.
They have, yes. The Suicide Squad killed the Justice League in the
Now,
game.
could it be Robin?
It could be. Maybe it's Damian Wayne.
Maybe it could be Damian Wayne. Okay,
Maybe
we gotta. Let's wrap this up.
Yep. So in the a few fun things here in the quest to remake every single Fallout thing in every single Fallout engine. Last week, somebody put out a trailer for this thing called Fallout 4 Project Arroyo that is a Fallout 2 remake in the Fallout 4 engine that looks just like a very janky Fallout game, but I think a lot of people like Fallout 2, so if they maybe this is what's funny about this is at the end of this trailer they show a lot of the stuff in Fallout 2, and at the very end it's not like a coming in 2024, it's somebody's email address with like, if you want to work with me, send me your CV. So but
why didn't anybody has anyone done it the other way where they say like, oh, I'm gonna remake Fallout 3 in like an isometric style?
Oh no, but I'd like to see that.
I would like to see that very much.
Yeah. I think Fallout, there was a Fallout 3 that was like half done, and I know that there's a bunch of community projects to kind of like finish that game up and make it playable, because it was like an isometric view but 3D characters, and then that was what they were working on before Black Isle shut down, and then it got sold to Bethesda. So but
fascinating.
Yeah.
This is like a nice looking mod. Like, haven't played some of Fallout 2, like, hey, that looks like Fallout 2, like, I don't know, like the vibe feels right in a way. It's not like you're just in like an I don't know what is Unreal asset flip maps.
Right. It's also like I don't recognize much out of Fallout 2 except for the beginning part where you get the suit and everything, and then they have a lot of like, oh look, it's like a cave and there's a bunch of like scrubland around it, and I'm like, ooh, that iconic part of Fallout 2. I don't remember that. So yeah.
Cool.
In other mod news, a bunch of modders are trying to bring Legend of Dragoon back. This was a PS1 game that was never actually released in North America. Was released in 2000 in North America, but was a PS1 game that a lot of people have a lot of fond memories of. Now, if you're looking up, I believe that this has been on the PS4 and PS5, but
I have this game. I fucking or this was like on the PS Plus. Okay, so all right, so yeah.
So what they're doing here is not is taking the actual game and porting it into like Java, like, or into like an actual PC language, like not a like running on a PS emulator on the PC, but translating it so that it works natively on the PC, where they can then do stuff like it can add additional features and quality of life improvements to the game. They can make it run, higher resolution scenes with higher FPS, but then they can also do stuff like apparently like letting you skip dialogue wasn't an option originally or something, or they mentioned some stuff in this article talking about that there's other stuff that they were able to do that was more than just like running in a higher resolution.
Wow. That's cool. I mean, they was definitely in that period of game releases where I would not say we have like full emulation or compatibility.
Mm-hmm. Well, wait, you told me earlier, right? You were like, the pixel age is over. I want my low poly PSX game.
The fucking thing about Legend of Dragoon is every time it comes up and I see it, I always get it confused with Jade Cocoon, which was a video game that I played and was interested in, not this game that I keep getting confused about and accidentally start it, and it's not the game I'm thinking of.
Yeah. Yeah, let's see. And then, we got a couple more here. Venba, the game about cooking in an Indian family that came out last year, that was all about kind of reassembling like recipes from your mom and stuff like that, is getting DLC that is an actual cookbook that shows you how to cook the actual things that were in the game Venba. So that's a pretty fun thing.
That's cute.
Yep. And then last but not least, we got this is a very strange, this is a French YouTuber that went out to Miami and attempted to recreate parts of the trailer for Grand Theft Auto 6 with like individual shots. It's mostly just like a 20-minute travel blog, but they managed to do kind of a you can see kind of a side-by-side of just like a couple of the opening shots of GTA 6 with actually shot in Miami, as
recreating
opposed to
the trailer.
Yes.
Yeah.
So sorry, I'm trying to pull stuff up.
You're trying to do the computer. What did you think about the GTA 6 trailer, the actual one, not this YouTuber blogger?
I thought when I first saw it, it was weird because I watched it and I was slightly like unimpressed, but then I realized the reason that I was unimpressed was because it looked so like realistic that like I was just like, yeah, man, that's just a fucking building, like, dude, yeah, whatever. And then I went back and looked at it, I was like, oh shit, that's the actual fucking building. Like, I think that it looks good. I think that I'm a big fan of when games are set in actual places, in like I love Hitman so much because you go to like a hotel, right? You go to like a suburban neighborhood, and I know what those places look like. And Grand Theft Auto, I think they've done a really good job of making these places look very similar to what they actually look like in reality, in a way that I think is one of the things that makes those games really special, as opposed to other
and
stuff.
Compressing them in a very artful way.
Yeah.
You know, you can play Grand Theft Auto 5, and if you know Los Angeles, you look everywhere around you and you're like, oh yeah, that looks like that and that looks like that, but without all of the sprawl that comes with any of these major cities.
Right.
It's they just have a way to do it that, like, I don't know, I feel like any people who try to emulate that type of open world game have difficulty getting.
Yeah, they definitely are top tier when it comes to people doing modern open world stuff. It always has more detail and looks better on the whole. So, And then with that, we're done. Bryce, you want to tell them where they can find you when you're not over here helping me run down the news of the week?
Absolutely. You can go find me over on we'll go check out my website for marbles.win. It is a website. You type it in and you'll go to the place. It'll have information there about the new season. New season coming soon. Mm-hmm. Marbles.win. Thank you.
Cool. And the Patreon, just go do that. Just Patreon with the RageSelect. RageSelect.patreon. Whatever. Go find it. You'll find it. We'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.